Alright, it's time for the final list and the biggest list and the one that everybody is excited for, and that's my top 7 best animated movies of 2017. As a fan of animation, I like to separate live action and animation because animation is not a genre, it's a medium. 2017 was a very struggling year for animation, especially in mainstream releases. But thankfully with the indie scene and the anime scene, we did get quite a lot of good stuff out of 2017. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see everything in 2017, and there's some stuff that I was able to see but just didn't catch, and some stuff that I did see recently that I just added last minute. If there's a really good indie animated movie or an anime movie that you don't see on this list, it's probably because I just didn't see it. That said, let's get started with my number 7, and that is one that I felt kind of obligated to put on this list because I am a fan of the show and it had its first movie, and that's My Little Pony, the movie. Now, this was a mainstream release, but it's a very weird mainstream release, since it was a 2D animated movie in theaters, which we haven't had for quite a while. At least not as a wide release. That's not an anime release. This movie definitely isn't for everybody, because it is My Little Pony, but if you are a fan of the show, then you probably enjoyed it just as much as I did. They improved the animation from the show, and they had a lot of great songs, and really I just enjoyed it from a fan's perspective. My number 6 is Captain Underpants from DreamWorks. They had Boss Baby earlier in the year, but then like a few months later, they had Captain Underpants, which was from a different studio that they were working with, so the budget was smaller, and thankfully it made its budget back, but it didn't quite make quite as much money as Boss Baby. I read a couple of the Captain Underpants books when I was in elementary school, but never really got too into it, but when they said they were making a movie, I was like, really? It's kind of late for that. But thankfully, the movie was actually really fun and very funny, and did a lot of different things with different styles of animation. But its main style of animation probably reminds a lot of people of the Peanuts movie, and that's great because that movie is awesome. But Captain Underpants is definitely one of DreamWorks' most recently underrated movies, so check it out if you haven't. Number 5 is one I saw recently, and that's Loving Vincent. It's about the life, but mostly death, of Vincent van Gogh. And even though this movie is pretty much just a big technical achievement, since every frame in the movie is an actual painting, it still has a very interesting story. It went into places that I didn't expect it to go in, and I was like truly invested in it. If anything, just watch it for the technical achievement it is. It's fascinating to watch these paintings just come to life. Number 4 is Your Name. Now, I know this movie actually came out in 2016, but it had a wide release in America in 2017. So that's why I'm including it on the list. And I know a lot of you are probably asking, why is it only number 4? I actually saw this movie twice, and yeah, it's really good. It's really good. I really recommend it. It's about a boy and a girl who randomly switch bodies, so it's a body swap story. But they do it in a very interesting way, and it's also a very beautiful anime movie. It's from the same people who did Garden of Words, so yeah, it's gonna look really good. But I only have it at number 4 because there's another anime movie that hit me a bit harder than Your Name, if you can believe it. Because Your Name's story hits you pretty hard. But my number 3, an anime movie called A Silent Voice, hit me even harder. The movie is about a deaf girl, but the movie is about much more than that, because the deaf girl isn't the main character. The main character is actually this boy that used to bully the deaf girl. And yeah, watching the first, few minutes of this movie is kind of hard to watch because you want to just, kill the main character. Hang him over a bypass or something because he's making fun of a deaf girl. Who does that? But the movie is more about him and his redemption, and him trying to make up for the things he did. It's also about loneliness and rekindling friendships. So I would highly recommend it. Now, for my top 2, I had a bit of trouble ordering them with which one I liked more. But both of them are really fantastic and fun and great movies, so either one you can put as your number 1. But for me, number 2 is going to be Lego Batman. So I think you already know what number 1's going to be. I didn't think that a spin-off of the Lego Movie was going to be quite as good as the Lego Movie itself, but what do you know, Lego Batman was fantastic and hilarious and a great time. It was especially fun if you're a fan of Batman and the animated series or the comics or whatever, because they put a ton of references in there. I'm not the biggest Batman fan, but since I watched the animated series, I got a lot of the jokes. And just the beginning of the movie itself, even before a logo shows up, is great. It's just hilarious. Lego Batman was one of the greatest characters that they made from the Lego Movie, and I can't wait for the other LEGO movies coming out next year. Even though LEGO Ninjago wasn't quite as good as LEGO Batman or the LEGO Movie, I think the LEGO universe in general is going to be really fun to play with. In a movie sense, not literally. though Legos are fun to play with. And yeah, I know I said Legos. That's the way I've said it since I was a kid. Sometimes I'll say Lego for the plural, sometimes I'll say Legos. It really depends. I'm aware that the correct way is Lego, but sometimes I just say Legos. Anyway, on to the number one, and you probably guessed it because of what I said before, but yeah, it's Coco. When I first saw this movie, I thought, yeah, this is really good. But after thinking back on it, I was like, man, yeah, that was really good. And I went to go see it again. It was something about the music where I just couldn't get it out of my head. And there's something about Pixar where they can just get me somehow. The funny thing about it is that I didn't tear up the first time I saw this movie, but I did the second time. It has a great story, and like I said in my review, it's more about the meaning of the holiday rather than the lore of the holiday like Book of Life explored. This is the second time I've had Pixar as my number one movie of a year. The last time it was 2015 with Inside Out. So congratulations, Pixar, you're the first studio to have, I guess, 2 movies in my top movies of my top 7s. Yeah, you can call me a Pixar fanboy or a Disney fanboy or whatever, but the movies are good, man, I just like them. And it's just my opinion. You don't have to have the same as mine. So those are my top 7 animated movies of 2017. What are yours? Tell me down in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, by now we're getting a bit used to winter. We're like soldiers in the middle of a campaign, growing hardened to discomfort and better able